Hey, what's up? And welcome to this episode of EST, the podcast for established church leaders by established church leaders. My name is Josh King.
My name is Sam, and it's not a pretty day here in Florida.
It's not.
About the weather.
It's really beautiful here in Texas.
I saw you posted
warm.
something on social media, and you were outside or something with another pastor, and I was like, "Yeah, it looks like it's really pretty there today." But
it is very, very pretty. I actually messed up with that lunch that I was going to meet with this guy, and I got there 30 minutes early. And it's one of these really cool developments that has all these shops and stuff. And I did not hate it. I walked around, I kind of hung out, sat on a park bench and read a little bit. So it was pretty cool. Great day.
There you go. Well, we've got a fun one to talk about today. And you and I have learned from experience the top 3 things not to do as a new pastor. But before we jump into that, I want to get to our sponsor, who we absolutely love. Thank you, Church Teams, for sponsoring this episode. Church Teams, as you have been hearing from us for quite some time, is the premier place to go for church management software solutions. They've got an awesome team that will help your church do church management software good. They'll do well. It's good's an adjective as well as an adverb. Make sure I I don't want to. I'm not even really reading copy right now, just because, well, they would send it to me correctly. I just didn't say it correctly. But yeah, Church Teams, great company. Go to est.church. They've got a free offer for you there. It's a trial run, so basically you can try them out for free, no risk. They've got a scalable system for all size churches, and their pricing reflects that. So the good thing about Church Teams is, hey, we're a smaller church. Can we afford it? Yeah, you can. You can afford a comprehensive church management software system. Yes, you can. We're a larger church. Do they have all the bells and whistles that we need? Yes, they do. So call Church Teams, and the way that you can find them, you can go to their website, but it's better if you go through our site. That way we get credit for it. That's how sponsors work, by the way. est.church. Thank you, Church Teams.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, I would say, Sam, I've never done these 3 things. So while I have seen people do this, I haven't done these 3 things. And so
I've done one of them.
Oh, hey, don't tell me. And then when we get to the end, I'm going to guess at the end of the show which one of these 3 you did.
Well, but when we get into it, I'll probably have to say. So you guess. Okay, yeah. So here's the 3. Let's get to the 3 first, and then you can guess which one. Okay. 3 things not to do as a new pastor. Don't change everything.
Right.
Like, don't go in as the change agent. 2, don't preach a heavy or gimmicky series. Right. And then the 3rd one here is don't eliminate leadership. Like, just don't clean house of all the leadership. Those are and we see this a lot. But guess which one I've done?
I'm going to go 2. You preached a gimmicky sermon.
Not gimmicky. I preached a heavy series.
Oh, you did? What'd you pick? What'd you do?
I did. So my first church, which was a church of 6 people in rural Kentucky, 2 hours one way to get there. I lived in the city. I drove out to the counties to get to my church. And I decided that I was going to preach doctrine. And I preached Ephesians, and I preached it hard and heavy, and I preached it out of the New American Standard Bible.
Yep.
Now there's probably listeners going, they're probably going, amen, yes, Ephesians in the NASB, that's the way to do preaching. And let me tell you, I'm there with you. But let's just say in that church of 6 people that had not had services in 2 years, Ephesians for them, they were just glad to be having church. Like, it was like, oh, preacher's talking about what? What's this predestination thing? Oh my goodness. So, I preached a heavy series, not a gimmicky series.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll talk why you shouldn't do those 2 things here in a minute. Okay, the first one is don't change everything. Now, I think this one's so obvious, right? I mean, everybody knows don't go in and change everything. You need to get the lay of the land and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a couple reasons why not to change everything, and maybe they're not the reasons you're thinking. Most people think, okay, don't change everything because you need to get buy-in, because relationally it's going to cause issues. Let me give you another one. And this one is more powerful to me, is this. You will sometimes change things that were there for a good reason. And you go in and, like when you're writing bylaws or something like that, you may not like the system. Maybe it's a elder-led system and you want to go with a single, like senior pastor system, or you want to go with a committee structure. Whatever it is, when you switch that so much, it is likely, if you speed through that process, that you are going to eliminate something that was needed. And you will not know that it was so needed until after you've already eliminated it. And so there's times where people are like, well, I'm just going to change the service structure. I don't like this, and I'm just going to change it over to this. Or I'm going to, change the website. And that all seems like it might be a good idea. But changing everything before you know why the things were there. And man, I should really know this, but isn't there a proverb that says, do not move the fence post? Do not move the old fence. I'm going to look it up, but there's definitely a proverb there that says,
I'm
don't move the fence
is it a
until
proverb?
you know.
Is it a proverb in the Bible, or is it a good old American proverb? I mean, I don't.
It might be a Texas thing.
It might be a Texas thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Fences are there for a reason. I've heard that one before. Like, before you go tear down a fence, just know it was there for a reason. And in essence, that's what you're saying. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to this. I get it. You go into a church, you look at it, and you feel like it's in crisis, and you're thinking, man, we've got to change so much here. But I've used this analogy before, but just in case we have some new listeners, even if, and a lot of times the churches will tell you to change everything, right? So you go in and they're like, we want you to come and change everything.
Right.
And it's like, well, the search committee said for you to change everything. And who knows if they really meant that or not. But even let's assume the church really is ready for change. And they say, well, it's like a doctor that tells you need 10 surgeries. Hey, you're in rough shape. And, you're going to need 10 surgeries. We think we can get you back. We think that, you'll be all right, but it's going to be quite a road. And you say, just do all 10 at once. I'm ready. Do all 10 surgeries all at the same time. And of course the doctor's going to say, no, that will kill you. We'll need to do one at a time. Well, that's changing the church too. Even if the body says we're ready, the body is ready, and the body's not ready. The body may say it's ready, but the body's not ready. And there's no way you're going to be able to change everything all at once. Yeah. Now, let's say you're in crisis mode and the church is about to shut the doors. Okay. I mean, sure, you may have to change everything, but those are pretty rare cases. They exist, but they're pretty rare. In most places, you have a year, 2, 3 years. Even if it's close to falling apart, you likely have a little more time than you think. And I've wanted to change everything, but because I go to Congregational Baptist churches, I have not been able to change everything.
Yeah. Okay. So I looked it up. I was wrong. It's not in the Bible. It's G.K. Chesterton. Is a quote from him.
Wasn't he Catholic?
Says, I don't know. But essentially the quote is, don't ever take a fence down until you know the reason why it was put up.
Okay. And that's the version that I've heard.
Yeah. And so there's this idea that like, there are things there for a reason. They may not be cool or hip or the kind of thing you like. But that's not a very good reason to change it. And I completely agree with you, Sam. So what I suggest is if you go into a church, just on your own, in your own journaling, write down however many things you think need to be changed. Whatever it is, as you're looking around, just write them down and then prioritize them. And maybe what I did in this last church that I went in, I made that list out and then I sort of prioritized it, but I really purposefully just said, that's my list, God. Show me what doesn't need to be on that list and show me what does and help me prioritize it. And then the more I had conversations with people, some of those things just fell away. I'll be honest with you. They're not issues that need to be changed. They're not policies or practices that need to be changed. They were just my perspective. And then I learned why the fence was there. And that list has dwindled down to 4 things. And I am now prioritizing it. So I'll say that. Another, along these lines is, don't say you won't change anything. Things need to be changed, and there might be something that needs to be fixed or something, and you'll go ahead and change that. All right, so don't change everything. And
go after low-hanging fruit. Go after the things that are going to be agreeable to a big chunk of people that are just kind of obvious, that are visible and will get people talking in a good way. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to go to what you think the highest priority is, even if you're right.
Right.
It may be better before you tackle that priority just to get some momentum going and build
Mhm.
some trust. Because if you take a huge risk on a big change up front and it fails because you're new, it may have nothing to do with your competence. It just may have to do with your newness. It's kind of hard to rebuild trust after that.
It
Um,
is.
and
And,
so
and to affect any sort of change after that. Yeah.
I would caution you as a new pastor with the desire to change big things or a lot of things. Go after the
Mm.
little things. Go after the low-hanging fruit. Learn the lay of the land, as you said earlier, and don't. Even though he's Catholic, we'll give Chesterton some credit here, and he
He's a good
wasn't
author.
Texan either. So I don't even know why you're giving him. I mean, he's Catholic and British. I think he's British. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway,
That's okay.
I'm
That's all right.
joking. For those, if anyone's listening who's new, that's a joke. I don't
We're
really
just we're
care.
just kidding around. Here's something we're not kidding around about. When you go into a new church, do not preach a heavy series or a gimmicky series. You're going to be real tempted to kind of like stand up to bat. It's like your first at bat, and you're going to just knock it out of the park. Listen, preaching is so much. Let me back up a little bit. Pastoring has a lot to do with preaching. They are not one and the same, and they are not synonyms. One is a title, one is a function, and they are separate. But at the same time, it is a big
Tell us
part
how
of
you
what we
really
do.
feel, Josh King.
Oh, yeah, I will tell you. So the deal is this: it really helps. So, like Sam, like younger pastors, you'll want to go in and just wow them with your knowledge, or you'll want to go ahead and fix their theology. And so you're going to start. And I would just say, just try to get on base. You're building relationships with these people. So I'm doing a 50-part series through the Bible, just hitting the top stories. There's a lot of people that haven't heard these stories before. They need to be discipled. There's some people that haven't heard them in the context of the whole narrative of the Bible. I've heard some people say they're going to go through John pretty swiftly. Mark pretty swiftly is a good one. I do not think,
Philippians.
even if you're Philippians is great. I don't think that, Sam and I have talked before. Verse by verse preaching is, I guess, overrated. And so don't bog down. We're trying to get them to come up, and maybe that's something you build into. But like, I'm going to start at what I'm saying is don't. What is the phrase? Man, I'm coming up with all these phrases today. Don't let your big mouth write a check that your rear end can't cash. All right. And
No, yeah,
so,
don't, yeah, don't write checks your butt can't cash.
right. Yeah. So
That's
when you
how I've
stand up there
heard
and
it.
go, we're going to go 7 years through Romans starting today, you might not be there 7 years if you try to do that. Another
You
thing
probably
is
won't
like,
be.
yeah, I wasn't new, but one time I decided I was going to preach through Joshua, like verse by verse. I was a student. I was going to do this, and and I'd already said it, and I'd gone a couple chapters in, and the reality was I wasn't all that familiar with all of Joshua. I was only very familiar with the beginning of Joshua, the fun part, the battles, the conquest. The whole half of the second half is just dividing out the land. It's really hard to preach that verse by verse. And so I wrote a check I could not cash. So those are heavy sermons. The other ones are gimmicky.
Now,
You're going to start off.
in the
Go ahead.
in the context of preaching, I think the saying should be, don't write checks that your congregation's butt can't cash, because they're the butts in the seats, and they won't be there if you go through verse by verse on Joshua. You're for 6 years of your first six
Right.
years of ministry at a church.
It's just not a good idea. Okay, so those are heavy. Gimmicky ones would be like you get there, you put out a banner, you send out postcards. We're gonna do 4 weeks on sex. We're gonna do
I'm riding
why
a
you need to.
motorcycle on stage.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, I'm all for creativity. I'm all for talking about sex. So that's great. Those things are awesome. But the deal
Can I
is
just can I just take that quote out of
you're
context and
just
just
gonna
put it on
clip it.
Twitter right now? I'm all for talking about sex, Josh King.
I really don't care if you do. I will talk to anybody about this topic. We need more wise heads talking about this. So I would say that like the problem is you've cheapened the pulpit. And you've kind of, you've made it to where now people are either thinking, okay, this guy doesn't take preaching seriously, or we can expect something very dramatic every single Sunday we come in here. So it's going to be a motorcycle this time. He's going to bring in a live mongoose next week. Whatever it is, that starts
Now,
to
I
become
would
the
show up
focus.
for that. I don't know about the motorcycle. I've seen that before, but a live mongoose?
A
I'll
mongoose?
be at church for that.
Yeah. It just makes me think of Ricky Dicky. Okay, so those are two things. Don't change
that
everything.
Story.
Yeah.
Ricky
we're
Tiki Tavi no Sharimbo Chari Chari Boopop Pipberry Pimbo, something like that. Isn't that it?
He fought a snake.
Well, that's what mongooses do. They fight cobras.
Yeah, that's what he did in the story.
I don't remember anything else about that.
I don't remember that much. Okay, all right. So we got to move. We're pressed here. We got we're preaching. We're changing, and the last thing here, I see a lot of guys do this.
And now this is more common, particularly in mid-size or larger churches, is I want to bring my own team in, so I'm going to slash and burn. Or I've got to, all the deacons got to resign and we got to, we need them to, I want to reevaluate, or new elder board, new trustee board. It's just not wise. I can understand why someone would want to do it. And there are times that I probably should have done that in my ministry. I actually had a staff. I don't want to give too many details here, but I had a staff person. This was not at West Bradenton, a previous church, and they resigned my first day. They put a resignation letter on my desk, and I should have said, "I will gladly accept this resignation letter."
Thank you very much. Hey,
by the way, if you're a staff person, don't do that to the lead pastor. Don't.
It puts them in an awkward spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the noble thing to do if you're a lead pastor is to assume that this person resigning has good reason and to accept the resignation. If you want your pride fed, like, oh no, I really need you, please stay. Something's just wrong with that if you feel the need to resign on the new guy's first day. And I would, and you know what? If that happens, you should probably just accept the resignation, because every time I've heard of somebody doing that, they're bad news. They're bad news.
Yeah. What I would say is if somebody walked in and said, look, it's your first day, here's my resignation letter, I'm willing to go or stay, it depends on you. My first question would be, did somebody put you up to this? Like, did the interim or the committee tell you that this is the right thing to do? Or do you feel like there's reasons that you should go? And if they say somebody put me up to it, I would be like, man, that's probably not a smart idea. You shouldn't have done that. And if they say, no, I just feel like, I want to submit to your authority, then I'm with Sam. Thank you. I accept your resignation, and, you have 2 weeks or something along those lines, because you're right. There's a judgment call there. It seems a little bit too cocky to be on a good church staff. But here's the deal. I've even seen pastors go, they come in and have the membership re-up their membership, and you're either in or you're out.
That's insanity. That's just absolute insanity.
Listen, I can imagine.
If you need the membership to do that, don't go to that church. Like, there's no reason for you to shepherd that group of people.
Well, here's what I'm trying to think of.
Kiss the ring. Please kiss my ring. That's the way that comes across.
I'm trying to think of scenarios where this might. So let's say there's a retired pastor, there's a church in the community. It's gone through tons and tons of problems, just turmoil and pain and all this kind of stuff, and they're just about ready to shut their doors. All of these things we're talking about here, that might be a scenario where you come in and you go, all right, we're going all the way down. That's a complete restart. Yeah.
Then that may be warranted, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a church that is existing. Maybe it's not healthy, but it's stable. You don't need people to resign their membership only to be put. There's no way you can discern. All right, you're all now not members. Now I get to discern whether you should be members. How am I supposed to know? No, that's just silly. That's just silliness.
Yeah. So when you're inheriting a staff, and hopefully you are, that's a good thing, or you're inheriting a thing. Here's what I assume. I assume they need some healing from something. everybody needs healing from something. Everybody has shadows and pain. I assume that they need some coaching. You're a certain kind of coach. You're coaching a certain kind of team. And the previous leadership was a different kind of coach. And so I assume they need some coaching. I assume they need some healing. And then we'll see if they're a fit. Once I can get through those spots, I'm going to see. Because I feel like my duty is to shepherd the staff as well. So I want to help them heal with whatever the pain is that they've got going on. I want to coach them up and see if they can fit in this system that I'm about to. And I don't make any apologies. I have my own system. I have my own way. I'm going to do it a certain way. And that's why I'm hired to be the head coach, right? So I've got my way. And if you can fit, awesome. I love for you to be here. You've got relationships and that sort of stuff. But at the end of that, if you can't, if it's just not working out, here's my feelings. Now I'm sending a guy to Sam's church or some other friend's church who is now healthier, better coached, and gracious, instead of sending somebody out that's wounded and hurt and that sort of stuff. So in my opinion, when you inherit staff or leaders, what you want to do is help them heal, coach them up, and then see if they're a fit. And that should take, maybe 6 months, something along those lines. And not 6 days and you're all out. I got my guy. I just don't think that's the way it works. You're not a Division I football coach. You don't get to bring in your whole team and coach. So it's just not how it works, at least in my opinion.
So top 3 things not to do as a new pastor. Don't change everything. Don't preach gimmicks. Don't preach heavy. And don't eliminate leadership. But there's one thing that you should do, absolutely should do. And that is to give Upward a call. Yes, they do. They do. How about that for a segue? I finally did one that was decent.
It's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Upward's great. They do sponsor the show. We're grateful for that. But we really only partner with people on the show who we truly believe in. And Upward is an incredible bridge into your community. They use sports as a bridge. I love their model. I love their team. I love how they implement their programs at churches. A lot of churches can say, we can, we've got this. We'll use Upward. We'll use the stuff. But other churches may say, we really need help. Like we don't know what we're doing. And whether you've never done this before, or whether you've been with Upward a long time or done recreation ministry a long time, Upward will come alongside of you and they will help your church where your church is. Whether you've got a gym or not, doesn't matter. If you've got a place for sports on your campus, which you probably do, they can help you figure it out. And they've mentioned this before when they came on the show with some interviews. Usually you're going to have about 50% of your church mixing in with 50% of the neighborhood. So if you have people involved, half of them are going to be church people, half of them are going to be non-church people. And boy, you want to talk about an opportunity for the gospel. And this is why Upward does what they do. They're also offering this $500 sports startup grant to our listeners. This is for our listeners only. So you can go to upward.org/churchanswers, upward.org/churchanswers. Go check them out. Tell them we sent you, and they will offer you this $500 sports startup grant. So they're going to give you $500 to do ministry in addition to sponsoring the show. I'd say that's pretty generous of Upward. Very generous.
I love that.
Of Upward. Yeah. And it's generous of you listeners and viewers, those of you who are on YouTube, for giving us your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Upward Sports equips churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their communities. Whether you're a sports fanatic or on staff at a church, Upward Sports will give you all the tools you need to run a first-class sports ministry that allows you to reach families in your community. Upward Sports offers basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and softball through league and camp offerings. At Upward Sports, we want to help your church make a difference and give you increased opportunities to share the gospel. Learn more today at upward.org/churchanswers.